Hi there, everyone. Welcome to The Daily Gardener. I'm your host, Jennifer Eveling. It's May 9th. Take two gardeners, have them grow up learning to garden from the same person, have them read the same books on gardening, tour the same public gardens. Yet, their gardens will look different from each other. Gardens are art, they're personal. Remember that the next time you're trying to copy the look of another garden. The difference isn't just topographical. When it comes to your garden, yes, consider microclimates, plant varieties, soil, sun, and so forth. But also make sure to add yourself to the list of variables. Here's today's brevities. Today is the birthday of botanist Count Alexandre Cassini, born on this day in 1781. As a lawyer, Cassini worked his way to the highest legal position in France, president of the chamber. Like many folks, botany was his hobby, not his day job. Cassini's heart belonged to the sunflower family, and he focused pretty much exclusively on the Compositae. It was fitting then that the genus Cassinia, the sunflower genus, was named in his honor by the botanist Robert Brown. On this day in 1807, Lewis and Clark returned a book that they had borrowed from Benjamin Smith Barton. Before they had started on their great expedition, Meriwether Lewis had visited Barton at his home. Upon leaving, he left with a copy of The History of Louisiana by Antoine Lepage. Lewis memorialized the gesture in the flyleaf of the book. Here's what he wrote. Dr. Benjamin Smith Barton was so obliging as to lend me this copy of Monsieur Lepage's History of Louisiana in June 1803. It has been since conveyed by me to the Pacific Ocean through the interior of North America on my late tour thither, and is now returned to its proprietor by his friend and obedient servant, Meriwether Lewis, Philadelphia, May 9th, 1807. On this day in 1888, in Delaware, the peach blossom was voted in as the state flower. Peach blossoms are a beautiful, deep pink color. The blooms appear very early in the year. Frost is always a concern. The fruit is botanically known as a drupe. It has a fleshy outer layer that covers a hard shell which contains a single seed. By 1875, Delaware was the country's top peach producer, until the yellows. The yellows was a blight that destroyed Delaware's orchards. In the late 1800s, Delaware was knocked from the top spot as a peach producer. In Unearthed Words, it's the birthday of Hewett Cottrell Watson, the father of British plant geography, born today in 1804. When Darwin created his theory of evolution, he was standing on the shoulders of curious early evolutionists like Watson. Darwin's popularity and success overshadowed the folks like Watson who came before him. Yet it's obvious that when Watson read Darwin's Origin, his reaction was one of wonder and also self-reflection. He spent his adult life trying to reach Darwin's conclusion. Now, as an old man, he could see the match he had lit being passed to a true torchbringer. After reading Origin, Watson wrote to Darwin. His letter is part proud dad, part odd fan, and yet he still takes time to advise Darwin. Watson's letter to Darwin is quite something to read, even after all this time. November 21st, 1859. My dear sir, once commenced to read the Origin, I could not rest till I had galloped through the whole. I shall now begin to reread it more deliberately. First, your leading idea will assuredly become recognized as an established truth in science. You are the greatest revolutionist in natural history of this century, if not all centuries. How greatly this will shock the ideas of many men. Today's book recommendation is A Nation in Bloom by Matthew Biggs. This is a book about the Royal Horticulture Society, the world's largest gardening charity, and it explores the past, present, and future of this most influential organization. For today's garden chore, repeat after me. Prune time follows bloom time. Not sure when to prune your spring flowering shrubs like lilacs and climbing roses? Prune time follows bloom time. Just as the bloom fades, it's time to prune. Spring flowering shrubs set their buds in the fall on last year's growth. So if you prune them in the fall or the winter, you're removing the spring's flowering buds. So don't do that. The minute they're done blooming, get out there and prune your spring flowering shrubs. Finally, here's something sweet to revive the little botanic spark in your heart. While I was researching the peach blossom, I ran across a botanist named Erwin Frank Smith. He'd attempted to solve the problem of the peach yellows. He came close, but he didn't do it. And in researching Smith, I discovered a rare combination of kindness and intellect. Smith had married the pretty Charlotte May Buffett on April 13th, 1893. They were quite happy together. They shared a love for reading and poetry. Tragically, Charlotte was diagnosed with endocarditis, and she died 8 months later on December 28th, 1906. Smith dealt with his grief by putting together a book made up of poetry, stories, and a biography of Charlotte. The book is called For Her Friends and Mine. Of it, Smith said, "This book is a cycle of my life. 7 lonely years are in it. The long ode on page 62 is a cry of pain." There are many touching passages in this book, too many to share here now, but there's a link to the book in the show notes that you can use to access it. There's one passage from Smith describing Charlotte's amazing ability to see the world with profound clarity, and I thought you'd like it. Here it is. Had she cared for classification, which she did not, she might have become an expert naturalist. What did interest her tremendously was the grade of intelligence manifested in lower forms of life. She would spend hours watching the habits of birds and insects, whether she looked into the tops of the tallest trees or the bottom of a stream or the grass at her feet. She was always finding marvels of adaptation to wonder at and links binding the world of life into a golden whole. She made lists of all the birds that visited her neighborhood. She knew most of them by their songs. She knew when they nested and where, what food they brought to their young. In studying birds, she used an opera glass, not a shotgun. She was, however, a very good shot with the revolver. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener, and remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day. The Daily Gardener is produced weekdays in lovely Maple Grove, Minnesota. You can find complete show notes over at thedailygardener.org, and be sure to share the show with your garden friends. You can find The Daily Gardener on all your favorite social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest, and of course, Facebook. While you're over at Facebook, don't forget to join the Daily Gardener community. Just search for these 3 words, Daily Gardener Community. The group will pop right up, and then request to join. Finally, I want to thank my team at Podfly Productions, where my fabulous editor is Eric Begay. Have a great day in the garden, and we'll see you tomorrow.